This is news analysis coming to you live on Politics and Business TV Abuja. Good afternoon and many thanks for joining us on the program for today. I'm Fatima Abubakar Oibo. The headlines. U.S. Congress targets Nigerian officials over religious persecution allegations. A public outcry as Tinubu approves 15% fuel import tariff. Silver's aides remained detained amid coup investigation. And on the foreign scene, Tanzania's president declares landslide victory amid unrest and blackout. Details of the stories and more to come shortly after the break. To stay with us. Welcome back. Now the news in details. A major diplomatic storm is brewing between Nigeria and the United States as the U.S. Congress considers imposing sanctions on 12 northern Nigerian governors alongside senior judges and traditional rulers. The move follows Nigeria's recent designation as a country of particular concern, CPC, by President Donald Trump, citing systemic violations of religious freedom. The proposed sanctions stem from allegations of complicity in religious persecutions, particularly under Nigeria's Sharia and blasphemy laws, which American lawmakers claim have contributed to what they described as a Christian genocide. The bill, titled the Nigerian Religious Freedom Accountability Act of 2025, calls for targeted sanctions against officials deemed responsible for religious-motivated violence or repression. Congressman Riley Moore and Chairman Tom Cole are leading the charge, with growing bipartisan support in Washington. If passed, the sanctions could include visa bans and asset freezes, further straining diplomatic ties between the two nations. Nigerian authorities have yet to issue an official response, but the development has sparked concerns across political and religious circles. Meanwhile, there is growing concern across Nigeria following President Bola Tinubu's approval of a 15% ad valorem import tariff on petrol and diesel. The directive, dated October 21st, 2025, was issued to the Federal Inland Revenue Service and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, with immediate enforcement ordered. Government officials say the move is part of a market-responsive import tariff framework aimed at protecting domestic refineries and stabilizing the downstream oil sector. However, critics argue the policy will further burden Nigerians already grappling with high fuel prices and economic hardship. Industry experts warned that pump prices could surge by as much as 150 naira per litre, sparking fears of inflation and reduced purchasing power. Civil society groups and opposition voices have called on the president to reconsider the decision, urging not to punish Nigerians again with policies that disproportionately affect the poor. As the directive takes effect, all eyes are on the presidency for possible reversal or relief measures. In another development, the political climate in Nigeria remains tense as two close associates of former Minister of State for Petroleum, Timipre Silva, continue to be held in custody over alleged links to a coup plot. Silva's younger brother, Paga Silva, who serves as his special assistant on domestic affairs, and his personal driver were arrested during a military operation at the ex-minister's Abuja residence. The arrest, which took place while Silva was reportedly out of the country, has sparked widespread speculation about the scope and targets of the ongoing investigation. Security sources suggest the detentions are part of a broader probe into a suspected conspiracy to destabilize the current administration. Investigators are said to be examining financial transactions involving the Niger Delta Development Commission, with reports of billions of naira allegedly funneled to politically exposed persons and military personnel. While no formal charges have been filed, the continued detention of Silva's aides has raised questions about due process and the political implications of the probe. The Nigerian Army has yet to issue an official statement, leaving the public and political observers are waiting for the development. You're still watching news analysis right here on Politics and Business Television Abuja. Still to come, Gencos count 2.3 trillion naira loss as grid failures stall power delivery. Details of this headline and more news content after a quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Nigeria's electricity generation companies, GenCos, have reported a staggering loss of 2.3 trillion naira due to stranded power, as persistent grid bottlenecks continue to hinder efficient energy distribution. Despite generating a substantial megawatts of electricity, GenCos say much of it remains undelivered to consumers due to transmission constraints and frequent grid collapses. Industry leaders warn that the situation is not only crippling their operations but also threatening national energy security and economic productivity. The GenCos are now urging the federal government to urgently address the structural inefficiencies plaguing the national grid. They argue that without immediate intervention, the sector risks further financial hemorrhage and potential shutdowns, with over 90% of monthly invoices reportedly unpaid and mounting debts from the Nigerian bulk electricity trading NBET. Stakeholders are calling for reforms in grid infrastructure, improved liquidity, and a more responsive regulatory framework to stabilize the power sector. On the foreign scene, Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan has claimed a sweeping victory in the country's recent presidential election, securing 98% of the vote in a contest marred by controversy. The election, held on October 29, 2025, was overshadowed by widespread protests and a nationwide internet blackout, which rights groups say stifled dissent and restricted access to information. Critics argue the vote was deeply flawed, with major opposition candidates barred from running and reports of violent crackdowns on demonstrators surfacing across the country. Following the announcement, Tanzania was placed under curfew as unrest escalated in major cities. Protesters accused the government of manipulating the electoral process and silencing opposition voices. International observers, including the United Nations, have expressed concern over what they describe as a pattern of repression in the East African nation. Despite the backlash, President Hassan now begins a second 5-year term, becoming Tanzania's first elected female leader. The global community watches closely as calls for transparency and accountability grow louder. Now for sport news, let's join Abel Sunday.
Good day and welcome to PRB's Sport News Update and Overall Sunday. The 2025 Nigerian Basketball Premier League Final 8 came to NOV stage. Lagos Upas, Boko City Chiefs and Nigeria Custom booked their spot after an intense week of action at the basketball indoor. On the final day of group play, Boko City Chiefs edged and 63-62, while Nigeria Custom held Kano Pillar to 70-64. Lagos Legends crushed past Nine University 93-63, and Rivers Upas wrapped things up with an 83-69 win over Kwara Falcons. Lagos Legends and Rivers Upas both finished top with 5 wins from 6 games, while Boko City Chiefs and Custom completed the top 4. The final 4-round robin begins next, where the 4 best teams will battle for the national championship title. That's the PRB Sport News Update and Overall Sunday.
Welcome back on, and let's move on to the focus of the day. Today we witnessed a stunning episode in Nigeria's diplomatic history. U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered the Pentagon to prepare for possible military action in Nigeria. He claimed the Nigerian government is permitting widespread killing of Christians, and according to statements he posted on Truth Social, he said could be troops on ground or airstrikes. They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. We're not going to allow that to happen. Yes, a foreign leader publicly threatening to invade Nigeria, the most populous black nation on earth. The immediate reaction here was shock, anger, and disbelief. Nigerians took to social media. And I quote, "Is there a single country the US has invaded that it hasn't left in ruins?" wrote a user on X. And on Facebook, before invasion, they should study the Nigerian map very well. But politicians were quick. The government rejected the narrative that Nigeria is religiously intolerant, saying violence is against all faiths. The Lagos ABC described calls for the US invasion as treacherous and embarrassing. This is not a theater, it's a crisis of sovereignty, image, and leadership. And we'll be unpacking it today with Dr. Sani Aliyu, the Commander General of the Community Neighborhood Security and Enlightenment Watch. But then, let's dig deeper. Nigeria was recently placed on the U.S. Country of Particular Concern list for religious freedom violations, a major blow to its global standing. Analysts warn Trump's threats could raise the risk of premium on Nigeria's assets, undue reforms, and spook investors. Meanwhile, average Nigerians are divided. One thread on premium time summed it up. The US, a threat, could plunge the country into a worse crisis and lead to more debt. Another online user slammed the narrative, and I quote again, "America fought ISIS in Syria. ISIS now rules Syria. America fought in Iraq. Same. So Nigerians begging America to fight Boko Haram. No thanks." The question remains, is Nigeria truly weak, or are we simply underrepresented and mischaracterized? Like I said, joining us live is Dr. Sani Aliyu, the Commandant General of the Community Neighborhood Security and Enlightenment Watch. Dr. Aliyu, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me on the program.
Okay, let's get right into it. Let's not waste much time. Dr. Aliyu, let's begin with your first reaction. When you heard Trump's statement about a possible U.S. military action in Nigeria, what went through your mind? Is this mere political theater or a reflection of how fragile our international image has become?
I wasn't surprised at all with his pronouncement. I know something like that is coming up. But before I go into details, first, I'm the Commandant General of Neighborhood Enlightenment and Safety Organization. We are counter-terrorist and counter-insurgency organization in Nigeria. Like I said, I'm not surprised with Trump outburst. A fortnight ago, I was at the Focus African Forum conference and award night, in which, while discussing my paper, I made mention that Trump is already angry with Nigeria. Why? Because Nigeria, from all intent and purposes before now, we are taking leadership in Africa. We fought for the independence of South Africa, and we never stopped there during the Israel military president, General Babangida. Under his behest, it was organized an ECOMOC. ECOMOC was the peacekeeping force in Africa, in our sub-region, and we have done, the ECOMOC have carried out successfully operations in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and has restored democracy and peace and harmony in those countries, making Nigeria a visible leader in African bloc. It's a threat to America because Russia has already taken the leadership of the Eastern Bloc, and China is already taking the leadership of the Asian bloc. Now Nigeria is about taking leadership of the African bloc. Nigeria is a country of over 237.5 million people, and the large size of over 923,000 square kilometers with assorted resources, mineral resources, name everything you talk about, we have it on earth. Now, if the market of Nigeria drizzle away from the hands of America, where will they face market for? So this is about economic interest, not religion. America doesn't care about any Christian, because if they do, we have a lot of Christians in Palestine. Palestine is the home of Jesus Christ. He was born in Bethlehem. By origin, by birth, Jesus Christ is a Palestinian. And today, Israeli, the Jewish people, are raining havoc in Palestine. What has President Trump done to assist Palestine, a Christian, where the Jesus Christ himself was born, his own village, his own town, being under heavy destruction by Israel? If it is a Christian something, then it's more reasoning and agreeable that Trump and America will have gone to assist Palestinian people, because the originator of Christianity is Jesus Christ, and that is the bad place for Palestine. So it is not about that. And the essence of creating Boko Haram is actually to cause religious disharmony in Nigeria. But unfortunately for the Americans and the Western allies that come together to form Boko Haram and bring to Nigeria, Boko Haram was formed in the northeast, predominantly a Muslim area. So when they start, if you look at the trade, the stride of Boko Haram at the initial stage, they were actually bombing churches. Yes. But at the end of the day, they went into bombing mosques, because the churches are very few in the northeast. So they joined both the Muslim and started killing Muslim and Christians together. And Muslim has recorded the highest casualty of the burnt of mosques and killing of the Muslims over there. It wasn't working for the Americans and their allies. So they now decided to bring in banditry. And then this banditry were now sent to Plateau State and Plateau and Jos. Now we are talking of, if America is a just nation, you have only predominant states in Nigeria that we could call a Christian predominant state. We have Plateau State, we have Benue in the north, and we have Kaduna. Kaduna is predominantly Muslim, but a minority Christian. Of course, there are pockets of crisis here and there in Kaduna State, long before this issue of banditry and the insurgency and whatever. There's always been religious crisis between Kaduna and Kaduna State. We know that. But what is happening in Plateau and Benue, it is orchestrated by the American itself, just so that they can come into Nigeria and hit Nigeria. And why I say it didn't come as a surprise to me, America has only been the only country on earth that organizes what is called Chief of Defense Staff conferences. Now, under the courageous nature of our former Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, on the behest of the bold President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, he organizes what is called the first of its kind African Chief of Defense Staff conference in Nigeria. And it went out successfully, because in that meeting, they come together as African states to say, okay, we are going to form what is called Counter-Terrorism Brigade in Africa. This to make sure that we clear off what is called terrorists in Africa. Now, if truly Trump is for Africa or Trump is for Christian, Nigeria has led the way again to manage or to eradicate terrorism, not only in Nigeria but in the whole of African region. Organized by President Ahmed Tinubu under his behest. Our former Chief of Defense Staff, Christopher Musa, organized that conference, and it was successful. So now, what threats that posed was that, again, after Boko Haram, the creation of Boko Haram has demeaned our ECOMOG, because only when a country has peace and security, that is where a country can now intervene in other nations' problem. Now they throw in Boko Haram to destabilize Nigerian peace, harmony, and unity, so that Nigeria will not have that strength again to go and intervene in other African nations' squabbles. Again, that is not working out quite well for them, with the coming up of Nigeria again strongly to organize what is called African Chief of Defense Staff conference, making Nigeria a leader again showing clearly that Nigeria is going to lead African bloc, and America will never agree for Nigeria to lead African bloc. And from all our stride, right from the world go, it is not by our making. It is the Almighty God that gave Nigeria that position. And that's why I keep calling on President Ahmed Bola Tinubu that he's not the president of Nigeria. He's the president of Africa. Any president of Nigeria is the president of Africa. So he must take his rightful seat in Africa. Because one, Nigeria is the most populous black nation in the world. We are endowed with all sorts of resources we never think of. We can never be rated as a poor nation. We are one of the richest God-endowed nations on earth. The Americans are very aware of this. The Americans know every nook and cranny of Nigeria to understand that there was nothing like genocide, Christian genocide in Nigeria. They knew very well there is nothing like genocide. But they are just looking for a way to hit Nigeria, to make Nigeria become a pariah nation. They want to dislocate Nigeria because Nigeria is aiming to become the African bloc leader. Which they will not
when I saw the news, the announcement by President Donald Trump, I started to think, what happens to families that have Christian, Muslims, and even the traditional religion within their family? But some analysts say Trump's comment exposes the weak perception of Nigeria's leadership and security institutions on the global stage. From your security background, what does this say about our internal stability and the government's control over national security narratives?
Well, I think what is constituting this largely now during this President Ahmed Bola Tinubu's administration is because Nigeria we don't have ambassadors anywhere in the world. Otherwise, the American president wouldn't have had that position, that leeway to make this statement that Nigeria there's genocide against Christians in Nigeria. Where? I am an example. I'm married to a Christian family, and in my own family there are Christians. From my mother's side, there are Christians. So how do we become enemies of ourselves? The Nigerian Christians and Muslims, they are already intertwined. They are one family. You find a Muslim family with Christians inside. You find a Christian families with Muslims. My wife's family, they have parents Christians and children Muslims. In my own family, my grandparents were Muslims. Some of their children were Christians. So this narrative that Donald Trump brought to Nigeria wouldn't work, because this is not the nature of Nigeria. Nigeria is a peace-loving country. We love our brother. Even when they started all the crises, the Ignite crisis in Kaduna State between the Muslim and the Christian in Kaduna State, after the crisis today, tomorrow you will still find them. You see the Muslim and the Christian going out into joints, drinking and whining together as if there's never anything that's happened. Nigeria is the most compassionate religious nation on earth. And they know this compassion in us. So they want to come into and break. I don't blame them, because the common say in Hausa that if the wall did not crack, the lizard wouldn't have a space to enter. It is some of our Nigerian pastors that are looking for aids, false aids. They need, as alleged, that they are looking for aid, so they will start writing to American government that we are being killed, blah, blah, blah. So foreign aids can come to their churches to continue living, buying jets and flying jets all around the world at the expense of the lives of their citizens. Now they are seeing what is coming to play. The problem now is not about Christian, it's about when Donald Trump strikes, where is he going to strike? If he strikes Plateau, there are Muslims there and Christians. If you strike Kaduna, there are Christians there and Muslims. If you strike Kebbi State, there are Christians there and Muslims. If you strike Zamfara, there are Christians there and Muslims. If you strike Sokoto, there are Christians there and Muslims. Because there is what is called the Catholic Archdiocese of Sokoto, Kuka is in Sokoto. Yes. So will they go and bring out all the Christians from Sokoto and bring them to Plateau and bring them to...
We know that Nigeria is a sovereign nation, but sovereignty only commands respect when it's backed by credibility. Do you think our current insecurity, from insurgency to banditry and resource theft, has made us appear vulnerable to such foreign threats?
America is the most is the most violent crime country on earth. It's the number one. The crime that is happening in Nigeria, 1/10 of it is not here. It hasn't happened. What is happening in America? Every second in America, there is a violent killing. So what is it? Nigeria, as far as I'm concerned, we have our own issues. We can solve our own problem. During this Nigerian civil war, we never called any country to come and intervene. Yes. We started the civil war ourselves. We ended the civil war ourselves. We don't need any foreign intervention. And we have shown that clear leadership in Africa. Countries in Africa that have problems, Nigeria has stepped in, solved those problems, and great democracy and peace and harmony in such countries. So what is problem? What is the problem of Trump? What is Trump's problem?
Very quickly, Dr. Ali, let's talk about diplomacy. I think we are running out of time already. Should Nigeria's foreign ministry or the presidency respond officially to Trump's statement, or is silence the smarter move to avoid giving it legitimacy?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, what Nigerian government should do is invite President Trump himself to come to Nigeria.
Okay.
Let him come and verify those claims. And let him show Nigerian President Tinubu where there is Christian genocide. President Tinubu should step aside for President Trump to come into Nigeria and lead him and show him where there are Christian genocide. Because as far as I'm concerned, Tinubu is unaware of any Christian genocide anywhere in the country. Neither am I aware. Neither is any other Nigerian aware of that genocide. If we are talking of genocide, how has he managed the genocide that's happening in Gaza? Where was America? What genocide was happening in South? Where was America? So this I'm saying is not about Christian. It's about the economic resources of Nigeria to destroy Nigeria so they can pilfer our economic resources, to enter Nigeria so that they can block Nigerian progress as African bloc.
Take our internal affairs.
Thank you very much. I am calling on CAN and Muslim leaders in Nigeria, yes, that enough is enough of their political gimmicks or of their incoherency in their statements or on their sympathy search for assistance. They should not go out to America or any other Western world to look for any assistance. They should depend on the resources of Nigeria. One, therefore, do not communicate falsehood to these people, because when this problem comes in, it doesn't stop in the Muslim head alone. It's all of us, because we are already intertwined. God has already put us together, so nobody can cause an asunder. And then I'm calling on President Ahmed Tinubu to, as a matter of urgency, appoint ambassadors. Naturally, ambassadors are the lobbyists of Nigeria and other foreign countries. If this thing that Trump is claiming today, if we have an ambassador of Nigeria in the United States of America, he will have opened it up to Trump. When in 2023, America said Nigeria must break in 2015, I was on the committee on a roundtable discussion where we even interfaced with the President of America then. And I told him of the consequences if Nigeria should break. Nigeria is 200, that time, Nigeria was 100 and something million people. But as it is today, Nigeria is 237.5 million people. If America hit Nigeria, there is not any economy in Africa that will contain the IDPs in Nigeria. Yes. Because there must be emancipation. There must be people movement. People would, let's assume 30 million, that is 10%, let's say 10% of that 20.3 million Nigerians, 37 million Nigerians are moving out of Nigeria to face a country like Niger, Cameroon, Ghana. Their economy will run down immediately. And I'm still telling Trump that Nigeria, anything that happens in Nigeria, it has a direct ripple effect to America. As he's seeing it, if he touched Nigeria, America is destroying America. And if Trump doesn't know, he should go back and ask Obama. Let him ask Obama to tell him the implication of America to touch Nigeria and what effect it will have on America. Because as far as I'm concerned, America is the easiest country Nigeria can get into. And after all, we have a greater population of the most knowledgeable people in America as Nigerians, America. So Trump should tread with care. Nigeria is not just that careless country that you can just come in and start hitting. It's not possible. And if you do so, you are doing that at the peril of your American country. That's what I have for him.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sani Ali, for your candid insights. You really did a good job on this topic, and I really appreciate it for you coming live into the studio to make sure that you dissect this issue. Thank you so much for joining me on the discussion. Well, folks, this issue goes far beyond tweets and threats. It's about sovereignty, credibility, and real leadership. When your people don't trust you enough to defend them, then others may feel invited to step in. Let's be clear. Nigeria's freedom is non-negotiable, but freedom that's defended by hollow rhetoric is worth little. And trusting foreign arms while your own house is in disarray, that's not security, that's surrender. This has been our focus today on Politics and Business Television. Stay alert, stay informed, and never let anyone threaten your nation's dignity. And that wraps up today's program. But before we go, the headlines again. U.S. Congress targets Nigerian officials over religious persecution allegations. A public outcry as Tinubu approves 15% fuel import tariff. Civils 8 remain detained amid coup investigation. And on the foreign scene, Tanzania's president declares landslide victory and unrest and blackout. For more updates and in-depth analysis, follow Politics and Business TV.English on YouTube and Facebook. Connect us on Instagram at PMBTV_English and TikTok at PMBTV_ENG. Remember to subscribe and stay informed. From me, Fatima Abubakar Oyibo, it's bye for now.